I thought that you would be making the most of all these sessions wherein we are bringing in people who have established credentials and have charted out a path of success in their respective fields to come and share their experiences, the path that they traveled, for you to know how to go about making success or achieving your objectives that you set for yourself in professional spaces. But I guess today being Ram Navami, you having after a heavy feast, you guys must be wanting to go a little easy with your day. But I hope there are more people who keep joining in and make the most of it. Well, I'm looking forward to today's session big time because of my own reasons. I don't know right or wrong, but the poshest of the Delhi is actually named after, or is commonly and cumulatively referred to by the name of the architect who actually went about designing it, which is Lachin's Delhi. CP, Rashtrapati Bhavan, Parliament. I mean, look at the phenomenal architecture that we have in Delhi and designed by Lachin's. In fact, Delhi's symbols are something that have been designed by an architecture. So architecture actually has started symbolizing cities in most of the places, whether you call it Eiffel Tower, whether you call it India Gate, whether you call it Gateway of India, you call it the Statue of Liberty. So I think it is one of those very interesting fields where people no doubt can make a mark, but in fact, your creations can connote with the city too. So today we have Prachi Gupta, who's one of those very established alumni of 2002 batch, who has done phenomenally well in the field of architect, cleared the best school in architecture in India, which is the School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi. Worked on really prestigious government projects, the biggest one being Indira Bhavan, and is now taking forward the green energy concept in architecture forward in common households as well as bigger projects. So we will not delay it any further, and I'll I'll request Prachi to come out live and tell us how has been her journey so far in the field of architecture. So Prachi, good morning, Prachi.
Hi Gunjan, good morning, and thank you for having me here today. It's actually an honor for me to speak to students of my school, the school where we all grew up. You know, it's a part of our life, so it's an honor for me, and thank you for having me here.
Yeah, it is. In fact, school is something that we all, whenever we go back to, I think that's why it's called as the golden era of our life. So, Prachi, just for a very fast warm up for the kids, also to know what you, what you were from school to this place. So, what were you? What were school days for you? Were you like really studious? Were you like the gunda type of the school? What were you like? Like always on to some pranks, or generally a very calm student?
So basically, in terms of studies, I was an above average student. I wasn't amongst the toppers, definitely, but I used to do okay in the studies. So there was, I was an overall okay student. And I was more into sports and extracurricular activities, which our school gave a lot of exposure to us. So, of course, that area was there.
Yeah.
I wasn't a Gunda type of a student, not at all. I was quite a calm student, and but then that was because there was a lot of discipline in the school, and yeah. But I used to be naughty like any other kid, so.
Very fond memories, I'm sure, of school. Yeah, school reminds us of a lot of stuff. Above average, yeah, great. That's why I think probably you're in one of those fields taken forward, one of those more difficult fields. Uh, Prachi, before
Yeah.
we
So,
get, yeah,
architect, yes.
before we get down to actual hardcore architecture, I thought I'll ask you, what is the architecture that you find most fascinating in Delhi or in the world? Which is your favorite architecture? What is it that you like about it? And another thing that I would want you to tell us, whether you took architecture as a profession purely, it was your choice, or was it an accidental thing? Because accidentally you wouldn't have cracked the best institute. So what is it that you like about architecture? What is it that made you choose this field of architecture? Prachi, Prachi, we've lost you somewhere. Can you, Prachi? Oh, great, we've got you back. I was just about to make a call to you, Prachi. Prachi, what I was asking was
Getting
this
disconnected.
architecture as a profession you chose was accidental? Was it a planned decision? What made you choose this field? What has kept you going in this field?
So, of course, in back in our times, when we were choosing a stream, when I was in 10th in 2000, year 2000, so the main choices used to be engineering, medical, commerce, or humanities. May of course we had other options, but broadly engineering. If you had non-medical, engineering was the primary primary choice that was given, right? So, however, I had an interest in architecture when I was in 10th grade. I got hold of this prospectus of SPA that came for one of my cousins, but I just opened it, and I was so fascinated with the with the kind of studies and everything. I read each and every word of that prospectus, and I knew that this is the college for me. This is the line for me. I have always been creative, so of course that was one of that was like a creative outing for me. But then it wasn't only the fascination. I also, then started inquiring about it. I read about it. I used to ask my peers. I used to ask my friends. I asked my seniors. I even met some of the architects and then made an informed decision. I did not just jump into it just out of fascination. So yeah, it was more of an informed decision. Um, Having said that, of course, engineering was there. I did prepare for engineering because it was my parents. Back then we couldn't really. Yeah, there was a lot of pressure of parents that they didn't really know architecture as a stream back then. So of course, engineering I had to keep in my kitty, and I did get through engineering colleges also, including DCE. However, I
Wow.
got through yeah, but then I got through SPA, and then that was a challenge to convince the parents. That was the biggest hurdle, I would say, at that time.
Okay, to get your parents to agree for architecture, but I
Yes,
think that
yes.
architecture is, I think, equally difficult and competitive like engineering. It's not a cakewalk for people who are pursuing it. But
Actually,
what is it? Yeah, sorry.
I would say it's harder than engineering. Reason being, for one, it has one additional year. It's a 5 years course.
Okay.
And then, of course, it requires a lot of, consistency and continuous work. So, yes.
Okay. But what is it, Prachi? Which is the architecture that you find most fascinating, or is your favorite, and what makes you like that? Just tell us some bit of just for us to also understand what makes architecture actually something like a phenomenal thing, that cities come get correlated with the architecture that's of that city. So what is it that you like? Which is the architecture? Why? And how come it's just like becomes such phenomenal for on a longer run?
Yeah. So there is not one particular type of architecture, an architectural style that I am fond of. It's actually whenever I see a phenomenal architectural design, I am inspired. Be it a Victorian architecture or French architecture or Mughal architecture, even Hindu architecture. So there is no one particular type of architecture that inspired me. But yes, it has to be phenomenal to really, get that inspiration on.
Okay, great. So I won't take longer, and I'd rather request if you could actually start from the beginning for us to know what is architecture, how do we get to the success paths that or the success that you've achieved. How do the kids get there? So I'll get direct to the point now because we started late as well.
Yeah, so let me just share the presentation, a brief presentation that I've made.
Sure.
So I'll need a minute for that. Or if it's there on your system, could you share that?
Well, I'll have to mail, but in case you're not able to do it, I'll fix it up.
Let me start sharing the presentation. Gunjan, I'm having little technical issues in sharing. Could you share that?
Okay, sure. Just a second. Prachi, I'll in the meantime just find it out and share it. In the meantime, you can keep talking about it so that we don't miss on to the time again.
Yes, sure. So, yeah. So my first question to all of the students will be, what do you think is architecture? Like, is it just interior design or what is it? So basically, a lot of people actually confuse architecture with interior design. Okay, you are an architect, so you must be doing the interior stuff. So interiors basically is a part of it. Architecture is an art and science of designing and getting the buildings constructed. Okay, an architect is the person who gets this work done. So that's architecture to begin with. And then, so I've already shared what my thoughts were during the school days, what I used to think about architecture, and how I got my parents to agree to it by getting through, one of the top colleges. That was one of the ways how I got my parents to get to it. Otherwise, so yeah, I'm getting this on. Just give me a second. I've got the presentation.
Okay,
I'm
I
able
do
to.
have got it. In case you want me to do it, I'll do it. In case you are able to do it, you can take it forward.
So I'm not. So you have to grant me permission to share.
No, you can share it from niche se.
Yeah, it's saying you must.
Okay, let me just see. I'll do it.
Okay, it's on. Great.
You want me to present?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Let's not waste any more time.
Yeah.
I got it. Yes. So, what are the traits to be a good architect? That's the next question that one should be asking themselves. So, first of all, of course, aptitude is very important. Without aptitude, I don't think anybody can, survive long in architecture. I've seen people actually, leaving architecture in between after spending 1 or 2 years in architecture because, they're not able to get their heart into it, or they find it too overwhelming because architecture requires a lot of, it has like 20 subjects, you would say, more than 20 subjects. And first year we are covering about 15 subjects. So it is, yes, one has to have the aptitude. Now, how do you find the aptitude, how do you find aptitude in architecture? So, of course, for that, you need to you can actually give aptitude tests. You can test yourself. There are free aptitude tests available on the internet. You could also take MBTI personality tests. And then most important thing is you can ask yourself, that's the most important thing that one can do. Yeah. So this is how this is how MBTI test results look like. That will give you a personality type. That will not only tell you about whether you have the traits to be a good architect. It will also tell you about what all other subjects you can take up. So of course one has to be positive as well because there may be a lot of roadblocks in between. So yes, that is there. Now, who all can apply? Till last year, certain colleges were taking students from commerce background as well. However, the good ones, the top league architecture colleges, were not taking students from any other background except the ones with physics, chemistry, and maths as the background. So, of course, you need PCM. If you are still interested in a similar subject, you could go for interior design diploma or interior design degree. uh, so first, the next question you should ask yourself is why architecture and why not anything else? So is it because it's a creative field? Well, there are many creative fields. Architecture is not the only creative field, isn't it? Then is it because you're fascinated about it, or is it fashionable? Back in our times it used to be fashionable to be an architect. Or very common reason why people choose architecture is because they are trying for engineering and they do not get into engineering, and then they say, okay, let's take architecture and we'll try to shift to engineering in the next year. So these reasons, these If these are the reasons, then I would suggest, you need to think about this course again, because you might be wasting your resources and energy in that. So some of the top architecture colleges in India. Gunjan, are you able to see my screen? Because I'm not really able to see the presenting screen over here. Are you able to see that? Gunjan? Is anybody able to see my screen?
No, Prachi, I can't see it because I thought you are talking and not presenting, but I can't see the screen.
Oh. Can you present? I'll in the meanwhile continue.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are some top architecture colleges in India that I'll just name a few. School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi being one of them. We have SPA Bhopal and Vijayawada also. But these colleges are only like 10-12 years old. Whereas SPA Delhi dates back to 1942. That was the year when it was established. Then we have CEPT Ahmedabad. That's another very good college with very good infrastructure and very good faculty. IIT Roorkee is another. Sir J.J. College of Art and Architecture is actually the oldest school of architecture in India. That dates back to 1800 something, 1830, 1840 or something like that. And then we have CCA, Chandigarh College of Architecture, and many more. Actually, you can study about those. So how to choose the right architecture college for you? There are so many architecture colleges available. There are 543 to be precise that are actually recognized by Council of Architecture. That is the governing body. So first of all, of course, you have to check whether it's COA recognized or not. That's the most important thing. Then you read about the college, about its policies, about its structure, about the methodology, their infrastructure, alumni and achievements, history of the college. That's very important as well, right? Then if they have any associations or any collaborations, so that, during your college days itself, you get enough exposure to the outside world. That's another important thing to look into it. There could be some government collaborations, some private firms collaborations, and then some foreign collaborations as well. For example, I know SPA has a lot of collaborations with government bodies. And even CEPT Ahmedabad has collaboration with firms like PwC being one of the top 4 accounting firms of the world. So, they pay for research and other things to the colleges. So one gets good exposure in these colleges. Then, of course, you can also look at the fees of the college, because whether the college is funded or is it not non-funded. If the college is funded, then the fees would be something like 1 lakh a year. And but if it is not funded, then it may actually go up to 5 lakh to 6 lakh per year. So one has to look at those aspects as well. If we talk about about the placements and how it is going to be once you move out. So placement is basically in the field of architecture. You do not really have placement like in engineering firms or engineering colleges or MBA colleges. There are some MNCs who do go to colleges to take students from there. But then most of the times people from good colleges, they just approach architects, and you have to approach architects to get the job, which is not a big deal, which is not really difficult if you're from A-league colleges. Okay. Then of course, how to apply. So there is a criteria about how to apply. Of course, you need to have minimum 50% marks. That's like nothing. Physics, chemistry, maths, of course. Then there are broadly 2 exams for architecture. One being JEE and another being NATA. So colleges like IITs, SPA Delhi, and SPA other branches as well, they all take admission through JEE. Now, what is JEE? JEE is, of course, like you have your IIT exam, you have a particular exam for your architecture as well within the JEE exam. It's a two-part exam basically. So okay, my screen is back. Great. So we can look at my screen as well. I'm also able to present now. So another exam is NATA exam. Now talking about JEE exam first, it has three parts: mathematics, aptitude test, and drawing test. So of course, mathematics and aptitude tests, these are two computer-based tests which happen at the centers. And these are multiple choice questions. So these are not really, subjective type questions. Then we have a drawing test, that's the part three. So that of course happens offline on, paper, and, you have to draw. So there they are not really only testing your drawing skills. Basically they are testing your aesthetic skill along with your perception, how you are perceiving things, because perception is a very important element in architecture. Now looking at the other test types, that is NATA, which most of the colleges of India consider NATA score. So NATA is again National Aptitude Test in Architecture. It has two sections and both of them are computer based tests. It is your general aptitude and logical reasoning, and physics, chemistry, maths questions are also there. And then you have cognitive skills test, that is again multiple choice questions. So both of these are computer based test only. And both these exams happen twice a year, sometime in April and September. So even you can actually apply for both in case you're not getting your desired score. Okay. Now, how to prepare for these entrance exams? So there are multiple ways of doing it. One is, of course, you could take specialized coaching for NATA, for JEE, and some institutes actually offer both. Now, there can be a crash course in architecture. Also, you could join it from your 11th standard as well. So it totally depends on how you want to go about it. Then, of course, there is another way of going through self-study, through books, mock papers, and practice. Then,
Prachi, how did you go about cracking SPA, which is, I think, the most elite college in India for architecture and are the highest paid architects? So, how did you go about preparing to crack SPA?
So, yes, in my time, it was through AIEEE. Okay, we had an exam for architecture. And of course, in that, physics, chemistry, maths was also there. And maths had maximum weightage there in the first part. Second part, architecture, for that, I actually took a crash course just after my boards exam. It was, I think, 2 months or 2 to 3 months course. And in that, basically, there were seniors from my college itself, from SPA, who took I basically took seniors guidance for that. So that was a crash course by them.
So,
And,
is it something, Prachi, that we say that while you're preparing for your engineering is what you can go about preparing for your architecture exam as well? Or if not, then what additional do you think one needs to do to prepare for architecture? A crash course, I understand, but what is it that one has to do to do architecture as well, to prepare for
so
architecture exam?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, aptitude is very essential, and it is tested in these exams as well. So if you have the aptitude, you do not really need to prepare for it, right? So now coming to the drawing part, of course, a crash course really helps you how to, you might have the skills, but you may not be able to really, take them forward or put them on paper, right? So a crash course gives you an idea about what can be done. and how to see things. So for me, I would say a crash course is a good enough thing. Yet, if you feel that you might require more time, then actually you can start preparing from 11th or even 12th standard.
Okay. So nothing in specific big time, but along with engineering, certain special books or courses, if we pursue for architecture, we'll be able to do it. Not that we only have to go about concentrating or doing something very drastically separate for architecture, if I have understood correct.
Yes, absolutely. Because architecture is basically, these exams are actually testing your aptitude. If you have it, you have it. If you don't have
Okay,
it, you
great.
don't have it.
Great.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And also, architecture is not only art, like I said earlier, it's art and science. So, of course, if you are preparing for engineering, you are studying your physics, chemistry, maths, it does help in architecture, in those 5 years and later on as well. Because we have subjects like structures and maths. Structures is basically based on principles of physics, and maths, of course, is there all the time. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So, architecture itself is a very broad field. It has many little segments within that. So, let's look at some of them. Of course, after 5 years of architecture, you could, first of all, there is bachelor's of architecture and bachelor's of planning. Now, planning you do mostly, you talk about planning on a larger scale, okay, not at the building level or at a campus level, okay. So masters could be masters in design, masters in conservation and restoration, where where they work on actually restoration and conservation of the heritage buildings, right?
Prachi, just
Uh,
one little more help. I mean, you just skipped off that differentiation. If you could just elaborate a little bit, what is the difference between actually planning and architecture? Because your school also says it's a school for planning and architecture. Now, what is planning? What is architecture? Are there two different streams? Are they common stream? Is it a specialization? What is it between the planning and the architecture that differentiates it?
So planning is, like I said briefly, planning is more on a larger scale. In planning, we cover like transport planning, we cover the city level planning, okay? And in architecture, we are mostly talking about a campus or a building and the details, okay? Of course, we have masters in architecture in urban design that talks about, city as well, but planning is broadly about, planning on a broader level. It does not talk about building or details. It talks about overall planning. So that is the broad difference. And now if you look at the master's degrees, we can actually see the further difference. For example, in planning, we have masters in transport planning, we have masters of urban planning, masters of regional planning, and there are some others. And then, of course, there are some common masters that one can do, that is masters in environmental planning, project management, MBA in construction management, or masters in urban housing. So, and there are many fields in actually masters. You could actually go for masters in architecture in various fields. I have listed only 10 because there was not ample space to list down all of them. So there are a variety of streams you could choose from. It's just like MBBS that you can actually go into further specializations later on.
But is there any field that is most sought after, Prachi, or all of them have, equal opportunities as you move forward?
I would say all of them have equal opportunities. Having said that, if I talk about my master's, that is master's in sustainable design. Over the years, it has actually taken up it has taken a front seat. A lot of people are moving towards sustainability because that's the need of the hour. So yes, but along with that, I would say urban design and other fields are still there. I mean, architecture as a profession itself has grown, over the years because of the need for that. Yeah. So it's
Okay.
not a particular field, particular specific, field.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. Let's take
So
it
I've
forward.
talked. Yeah. So I've talked about Indian universities. Now, if you're like some of you might be interested in a foreign university at the bachelor's level, or you might want to go to a foreign university later on after your bachelor's, like I did. So how to choose a foreign university? It's the whole world. How to choose? So there are some key things that you could see. First of all, I would say choose country, because each country has their own culture, um, own things that they can offer. And of course, for some people, it could be a matter of, how far that country is from India. So that could also be a concern. Then look at foreign policies, whether it's migrant friendly or not. What are the visa rules? Would you get a work permit after your, graduation or post graduation over there? Then what are the available opportunities, during and after studies, right? So what is the duration of the course? For example, if you're going, because in certain countries you have work permits after a particular duration of course only. Also in India, if you want to come back to India and go into teaching, you need to have a minimum of 2 years of masters from any country. Okay. Then another aspect you can look at is the cost. Cost includes your fees as well as living expenses. Then you could also look at return on investment. If you are spending like 30, 40, 50, 60 lakhs on that, so you can look at that also. Another very important aspect that you can look at is the economic conditions around the world when you are going. For example, now maybe a good time or a bad time, one has to really evaluate according to the duration of the course, and a lot of other factors. So you have to consider the economic conditions also. Like I would give my example. When I went for masters, I went for masters in 2008. That was a great global economic recession time, and I had to face a lot of challenges after coming out of my masters. I will talk about it in the next coming few slides. So, what about post BArch degree? What can you expect? So, this is a professional field. Like any other professional field, you directly do not get a huge package. But according to the experience, your salary or your income keeps on increasing. So, these figures you can look up later on, or you can look up now. These are not really a prominent criteria for deciding whether you would like to go for architecture or not. So quickly, I would like to talk about my journey, and what were the challenges or milestones that I achieved, and what were the challenges that I faced during my time in the college. So yeah, the first and foremost challenge I told you about, convincing my parents to get into architecture. Then I gave AIEEE. Fortunately, I got All India rank 39 in AIEEE. Then I could choose a college of my choice, that was SPA. Then of course in SPA I got a lot of exposure over the 5 years. I actually got a taste of all the streams that I mentioned I could choose later on. And I explored different things in my dissertation, seminar, thesis, architectural projects. For example, my dissertation was on architecture of cruises. That's a totally different field. And my thesis was towards sustainability. My seminar that was later published was on the public spaces. So different things I explored during the 5 years, because you have nothing to lose during that time and you can really explore. And then of course I did internship where I could experiment a bit. Then I took a job for 1 year, and then I went to UK, University of Sheffield, for study. Like I mentioned, in 2008 I was there, and 2009 when I came out, there was huge challenges. India did not really see that much of an economic crisis as the Western world, especially the European countries and the American, America saw. So there was huge challenge in terms of finding jobs, because the top notch, the creamy layer was actually sitting at home. They were fired, even and there was huge depression over there at that time. So, but I did want to get an experience of the country, and I only had 2 years after, for my, I had 2 years of post work permit. which I wanted to utilize. So, during this crisis, a couple of my friends, we teamed up with our professor himself, because of course he was authorized to practice as an architect in UK. You have different licenses in different countries. We teamed up with him and we actually started our own small sustainability consultancy. What we did was we started offering, because as a resident there, I noticed that people are actually paying a huge chunk of money of their salaries into their electricity bills and into their water bills. So what is the way where we can how can we become bring economic sustainability for those people by giving them energy efficiency in their buildings, in their homes, in their offices? So that is how we started this small sustainability consultancy, and we actually did very well in that. So
Prachi,
yeah.
I have one question here.
Yes.
As I hear you, I think architecture to an extent is a very, that's as an outsider is what my question is a very misconstrued field, because an architect is supposed to take care of the interiors, as you said. Now you talk about sustainable energy, you talk about planning, you talk about building designing, then getting it built. So what actually encompasses architecture, and what are then the specialized areas one can pursue? Is as in like what you said, after MBBS there could be many, but which is the fastest growing, which are the areas, which are the upcoming things in architecture where people can grow faster? What are the newer things that are happening in the field, is what, if you could also tell us.
So, Gunjan, that's a very, actually, that's a very broad question, and it does not have a single answer, to be very
Okay.
honest, because all the fields are doing well. There is no one particular field that one can choose, and, this is it for me. Like I have mentioned time and again, just like MBBS, we cannot really say that, a heart surgeon is, heart surgery is something I should go for a heart surgeon, or maybe I should become a dentist. So all fields have their own importances and requirements. We cannot really say that, if I pick up this field, I will, reach the top. It's not like that. It totally depends on your interest and how you want to take it forward. So there
So
is
your
no,
field, which is what we see, which is more on sustainable energy. Now that's
yes.
something which is a very upcoming and latest and new thing. So are there any more new things also coming in architecture? Or is it, what my thing is, I hope it's not a very stagnant field, as what you just said. Ki, okay, there is this thing called as interior, which we all know of. There is this thing called as building designing and planning and getting it executed. Now this is something sustainable energy. So how is your field evolving? Are there more interesting things, or what are the upcoming things in your field, is what is another area that's intrigued me.
Yes. So, like I'll be sharing in the next few slides also.
Okay,
Actually, let me talk about my journey and then I'll
sure,
just touch on
sure.
that. So, once I came back to India in 2010, it's important, another thing I want to say over here, it's important to be at the right place at the right time. So, in 2008-9, when I was in the UK, I was at the wrong place at the wrong time, right? And I really learned from that. And 2010, when Indian economy was actually on a boom, especially the real estate sector, that is when I decided to actually come back. Okay, so here I actually started exploring. I worked for 2 years. I worked in interior design firm also. I worked in a project management firm. I worked in a design and build firm. I explored, to be very honest. Okay, and then I did hospital architecture. Then 2 years later, I started my own consultancy. Initially, for 1 year, I actually explored there also, and then I took up sustainability because, of course, that was my core area. And even in sustainability, I started giving consultancy to architects and owners for going for their for sustainability of their buildings, or any other upcoming buildings. Also, I because I was interested in trainings as well. So I started, I took some accreditations and started training people. I got impaneled at various places, and I also give trainings to people all over India, on the various aspects of sustainability, various codes, various rules. So I integrated my interest of travel in this. Okay. Now, answering your question, Gunjan, I would like to show this slide first. So, what others are doing. So, there are many people who are actually into architecture and relevant fields, like all the fields, landscape architecture, or other things that I mentioned. Then, project management, of course, some people are into project management. Some people have gone into hardcore construction. Some people have become, realtors. They're into totally into real estate and almost cut off from architecture. Some people have gone into interior design as well, and some people have gone into product design. Okay, that's a very interesting field. Like Gunjan, you asked that what are the other fields one can look into. So product design is something that's very upcoming field from last 10 to 15 years, and it still has a lot of potential, and I would say one can look at this field as well. Then, of course, energy consultancy. Yes, energy consultancy is definitely an upcoming field, and it's the need of the hour. Um, then some people, who had this, another interest of journalism inside them, or interest of writing, so they went into architectural journalism as well. Then there is a field called architectural law. Some people have, actually totally left everything, and they started traveling a lot. They started exploring architectural sites and became a travel blogger, fashion designer. Then there is a friend of mine who actually went to design, went into film set designing. Okay, and then did a course on filmmaking also, and became a filmmaker now. So and then there are people into finance sectors. Real estate financing is also something that is, that gives you a lot of money actually. That's a really income generating field. Then, of course, valuation of assets. If you have a legal mind as well as analytical, as well as economic, if you have little interest, then you can choose that field also. Yeah, I think Gunjan, you have a
Yeah,
question.
so the world is open, if I understand correctly, after architecture also, and architecture helps in product design. It takes you into the glam world of set designing. It takes you into journalism. I don't know how it helps in product design, but I'm sure, I mean, it will give you an edge because anything leads to this thing. And I also understood, Prachi, that success is never served. You really have to work hard, like the way you did, and found your area that you want to take it forward, which is sustainable energy. So with time, I'm sure there are going to be newer fields coming up in architecture where kids will have to evaluate and get into. And I also understood is that it's a very cost intensive area with, I don't know whether there is a scope of error or not, or have you made any errors in doing architecture projects? So, do you have anything interesting to talk about? Have you ever faltered and you covered with your smartness out here?
Yes, absolutely. I would not name the project because it's a very famous hospital project. What happened over there was I was a project architect, and there was some, coordination gap and some communication gap, because of which a 10 to 12 feet long beam was casted on the facade, or the facade means the front of the building, and it was not meant to be,
Oh,
so it was it was meant to be a double height space, and this was a very big error that happened. And now, being a structural part, it cannot be, really taken off without compromising with the structural integrity of the building. So that was one of the errors. But then we actually covered it up without the client and the other people knowing about it. We had to really, make it a part of design element itself. So
also so the owner lives with that fault without realizing and feels good about it.
Yes, 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 of
Oh,
course. I
great.
mean,
Okay.
yes.
We'll open up for question and answers in case anyone has. While you're writing your question and answers, your questions for Prachi to answer, I have a question, Prachi. Just a second. I
So,
have a question, Prachi, which is how demanding and how difficult is architecture as a professional line for girls? Because so far, my question is not that the women can't do it. It's purely coming out from the fact that it's a very, very male-dominated field so far. So, how how do you think it is for women in this male-dominated field?
okay. So, first of all, I would like to correct you over here. It's not a male dominated field.
Okay.
I mean, I think this is one of the fields where we have 55 to 45 ratio, 55 being the females and 45%
Okay.
being the males. So,
Okay.
it's
Great.
like that. Yes, we have more females in this field, if not more, at least equal.
Okay.
And about the challenges, so of course, like any other field, being a woman, there are certain challenges. However, there are certain advantages as well. For example, a woman is considered okay. First, I'll talk about the challenges. So, personally, I was not very. It was very physically taxing for me to be on the sites all the time, um, which this field requires. So, so a project management or a construction firm never worked for me. So it was more like I prefer to sit in the office and go to the field once in a while. This is, sit in the comforts of the office. So yes, physically taxing. But there are many other things. You don't have to choose the physically taxing part. You have the choice. That is what I'm saying. And
Okay.
talking about the advantages, yes. So talking about the advantages, like for example, the hospital that I was building, I'll take an example from there itself. It was a mother and child hospital. So the client was obviously much more comfortable having me on board because, women are considered to be more sensitive and more aesthetic in nature. It's a mindset. I'm not saying that this is how it is. However, it's a mindset which gives women an advantage in this field. So yes, women architects are doing really well. It's not a male dominated field at all. Yeah. For
Okay.
example, we have Zaha. We had Zaha Hadid. She was a phenomenal architect and a woman herself. So
Okay. So I mean, it is not as difficult as what we see from outside.
not
It's
at all.
just
Not at
not about all concrete and anything. It's also about a lot of creativity, sensitivity involved in this. Oh, you,
absolutely.
Namrata ma'am and Shreya ma'am have been, they are complimenting for all the success that you've achieved.
Thank
Uh, and it's really kind of you, ma'am. So we'll, in case there are no questions, we'll have to close the session. Thanking okay, I was expecting somebody to ask which Jaskriti did. Ma'am, is it a well-paying job, Prachi? If you could answer for her.
So, like I mentioned earlier, that in all the professions, see, this is a professional field. So, in all the professional fields, you do not get huge packages in the beginning itself. You get paid for your experience, your work. So, immediately coming out of it, you may not, match with many other fields. Yet, you get a good enough money to begin with, and then there is, then sky is the limit. Then you can actually go to any limits. So it's not that it's not a paying field. Yet it totally depends on you, ma'am. Totally depends on you.
Prachi, one little thing which intrigues me again is I don't know. I think I have more questions than a lot of kids. Okay, first we'll continue with Jaskriti. She says, how many years one should work before expecting good packages?
So my question would be, what is a good package for you? Because this is a very subjective field. That's a very subjective question actually.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I guess let's take it close to At least 1.5, 2 lakhs, which is a decent amount
Okay, so 1.5
per
to 2
month.
lakhs per month. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Actually, you can start earning that amount in 3 4 years as well, or it could take you years. It totally depends on you. And some people I know who started earning much more than this in their first year itself. So if you are in a job, then of course you are in a salary range. But if you start with your own work, then actually there is no limit. Then you can earn this amount in the first year itself.
Okay, Prachi, another thing is architecture as a profession more, is it like job oriented? Is it more fruitful when you're in a job, or is it more fruitful, or it has a more entrepreneurial requirement to succeed? Which out of the two? The job, like after being in investment banking, you need to get into a job with a good company. Here, is it more to do with a job angle more is more fruitful, or being an entrepreneur helps better?
So I would say, see, it totally depends on you again. But if you're asking my opinion, I would say for an initial few years, if you explore at others' cost, so it's always more helpful because you are bound to make mistakes. So yes, of course, it's better that we do job in the initial few years. But after a few years, for me, I had this mindset that okay, after 10 years of experience, I'll start on my own. But for me, that thing came little earlier. Within 5 years, I was done. Okay, I have to start on my own. I cannot be in a job anymore. So it totally beyond the point. Yes, you tend to start on your own.
Sure. Okay. Just Kriti, in case of any queries, please, there is an email ID given in the presentation, in the communication. Please write it to us. Giving out phone numbers for all speakers may not be possible. We'll get your queries resolved from the speaker. In case still be, we'll put you in direct touch with the speaker if you're not able to resolve it. But giving out phone numbers in sessions openly may not be a possibility for us right now. Now, going back to Meghna Gupta, who has a question: how many years should we work under some other established architect before deciding further?
So, Meghna, you would know yourself, because for me, this came in 5 years. For some people, it came within first year. And for some people, even after 10 to 15 years, they're still in jobs. It totally depends on you. Totally depends on you. You will know. You will really know once you get into this.
And for any guidance in sustainable energy, Meghna, just Priti, you know who to get in touch with. So I'm sure she will not hesitate in coming back and helping juniors
No.
or school alumni. But if you pursue it, you have questions, feel free to write to us. We're going to get it resolved from Prachi.
So there are
Uh,
a couple of things I would like to say before we end this session. That of course there are going to be a lot of challenges and roadblocks. One of the challenge that I forgot to mention and is very important in all the A-League colleges like SPA, for example, it is a unsaid rule in SPA that if you pass your college in dot 5 years, you're not a good architect. Okay,
why is it
so
so?
so
Why
that's an
is that
unsaid.
so?
And the best of the architects that have passed out from my college have actually taken 7 to 8 years. I myself took 5.5 years. I had to repeat my thesis because my guide was like, okay, you have done a good job, but I would like you to do better. So it's better you take another 6 months and repeat your thesis. So at that time I used to think, this is like an end of the world. But if I look back now, that really helped me. Reason being, if I had completed within 5 years, I would have gone to Australia for my masters and taken up any random course. But since I got those 6 months extra, I went for masters after 1 year, and I went to UK to a different college, and I got some time to think about it. So it worked out really well for me.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Prachi, for taking out time from your hectic and daily busy schedule. We'll circulate the presentation that you've shared with us in a PDF format for people who are interested in architecture. And for any queries, we're going to come back to you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Veena ma'am. Thank you, Namrata ma'am. Thank you, Shreya ma'am.
Thank you, Gunjan and Prachi. It was really nice.
Thank you so much, ma'am.